You're listening to episode 6 of Literacy in Color. Today's guest is extra special because not only is she an expert literacy coach, but she's a good friend of mine. Erin McBride has over 10 years of experience as a literacy coach, and she began her career as a classroom teacher, discovering a deep passion for teaching reading. She now works at Rutgers Center of Literacy Development, supporting teachers across the state as a literacy coach. In addition to her coaching role, Erin serves as a supervisor to her student teachers for Georgian Court University. Her goal is to help educators enhance their literacy instruction to better support student success. And in today's coaching conversation, we're talking all about the power of coaching cycles, and I can't wait for you to hear all of the helpful nuggets that Erin has to share. Welcome to the Literacy in Color podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Sullivan, a science of reading advocate with over a decade of experience as a reading interventionist and literacy coach. I'm passionate about making evidence-based instruction both effective and engaging. If you're interested in captivating our learners on reading fluently and understanding language, or as I like to call it, keeping it colorful, then you've found the right place. Each week, we'll explore intriguing lit bits and practical strategies around the science of reading and structured literacy to help you be colorful and teach colorfully. Are you ready to bring literacy to life? Let's color outside the lines and make an impact together. Hello, everyone. You are in for a real treat today because we have a special guest who is near and dear to my heart, Erin McBride. So Erin and I used to be colleagues. We started working together, over a decade ago, and we were both reading interventionists, and she became one of the very first literacy coaches in our district. So we're going to hear from the OG who kicked off coaching in a school district, my school district, and hear her expertise and see how her role has evolved over the years too. So let's hear a little bit about your coaching journey, Erin.
Yeah, so I was actually thinking about this, and you were probably one of the first people that I got to really test coaching out with, because I was becoming the coach in the district, one of the first coaches, and you took over my role as interventionist. And so you were a really great person to practice with. And as I was navigating the waters of being a brand new literacy coach, I really immersed myself into training and learning the ropes of what a literacy coach was and did. And we were really afforded the opportunity to build the coaching program from the ground up with a lot of autonomy, which was really just great leadership that, we were so fortunate to have. I spent time in 2 different districts being a district-wide literacy coach. And during that time, I got to experience being a coach in very big schools, being a coach across multiple schools, and then even wrapping up my time as a literacy coach, being a coach in a really teeny tiny school where there was only 1 or 2 classes per grade level and maybe 10 to 15 kids in a class. So in that scenario, I knew every child by name in the entire school. So I recently had my 3rd baby, and, being out on maternity leave, I was blessed with this opportunity to become a literacy coach with the Rutgers Center for Literacy Development. And now I coach teachers across the state of New Jersey. And this role is completely different because I am not tied to any one district, and I don't have any affiliation with one school. And sometimes I spend even as little as 1 day in a school. So it's a completely different role.
That is so special. And I love that you've had so many different unique experiences because it really probably has honed in on your art of coaching and seeing how coaching can differ from big environments to small environments to being that one person in the building to maybe just visiting a school district once, like you said, which is so cool. And I have to say, you did some things right because our school district expanded the coaching program after seeing how valuable coaching was. So coaching really is something special. If school districts aren't invested in them, a coach can really change the trajectory of your literacy programs. So today I want to touch base with you and see what are some different ways that we can offer coaching support to our teachers.
So, as you can see from my history in coaching, there's really not a one size fits all approach. And that's the beauty in it, because when we are coaches, we are tasked with working with a lot of different types of people, a lot of different types of learners in our teachers and our students. So, the most important thing of all, before I jump into the ways that you can offer support, is ensuring that you're building strong relationships with the people that you're going to be coaching and having a really strong rapport with them. So sometimes if you're a brand new coach, that means that you schedule your lunch to have lunch with different grade levels at different times. Sometimes that means that you pop into a PLC just to be there as someone to listen in. Sometimes that means you go in during their prep and you just ask them how they're doing and if you can support them in any way. You have to build that piece of trust first before you can worry about the ways that you're going to offer coaching. Once you have that trust and you really start to learn what different personality types and learning styles your teachers have, then you can kind of think about how you could best support those teachers. And that might look like demo lessons, co-teaching, observing. That can feel really scary. And I'm always trying to come up with, Michelle, if you have another term rather than observation, because it's developed such a negative connotation with teachers. But I do love to go in and watch them teach in a really non-threatening way, co-planning, PLCs. You can assess their students with them or alongside them. That's really powerful. And honestly, whatever else they need, you can support them with.
I love that. So coaching is just not a one size fits all kind of approach. And I love how you talked about building relationships first, because from a teacher point of view, you can think about your own students and you are going to tailor things differently for different students too, to really give them what they need. So one of the ways that we offer coaching support can be through coaching cycles. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. A coaching cycle is basically a plan that is developed between a coach and a teacher, or even better, a team of teachers. If you can get a team in a cycle, there's more power in numbers. And the plan is to achieve a certain goal that they've agreed upon and talked about together. So what it's not the administration saying, we noticed the test score showing this, or we want you to start doing that. That's not what a coaching cycle goal should look like. It really should be from the coaches and the teachers. It's not what the district thinks they need to, quote, fix. So when you're thinking about those goals, there's two really ways to think about it. Some coaching is considered teacher-centered, where the goal at the end of the day is to increase teacher capacity in some way. So, an example might be the teachers will be able to implement impactful small group structured literacy lessons using decodable texts. That's helping teachers learn a new skill or a new craft to get better at something maybe they're already doing. There's also student-centered coach, which Diane Sweeney talks a lot about student-centered coaching. And in this scenario, the end goal is really focused more on the students. So maybe the goal might be students will enhance their ability to fluently decode new words. And there's no right or wrong. There's not one student-centered is better than teacher-centered. There's different scenarios where different types of coaching works.
Awesome. And I think one of the biggest things is that it's not just a one-hit wonder kind of coaching experience. Like you don't just go in once and, see you 5 weeks from now, but you have a plan together. And I love what you said about making the goal with the teachers, because first of all, that's how you get buy-in, and they're going to be more apt to making changes and implementing those changes if it's something that they are passionate about wanting to change. So can you walk us through a coaching cycle, what that might look like? What's one way it can go? I'm sure there are a million ways they can go.
There are a million different ways, and it does take a lot of thought and plan. So just sort of a little caveat, if you happen to be an administrator listening to this podcast, something I think that's really important for leadership to remember is that for coaches to do really well at their job, they have to fill their own buckets as well. And sometimes that looks like the coach sitting in their office on their computer, but it's likely that they're reading recent research, they're thinking about student data, they're developing impactful plans, and that takes more time than you might think some of the time. So coaches need to be afforded that time. So when I'm thinking about a coaching cycle, the first thing that I like to do is outline a specific length of time the coaching cycle will go on for. And there are so many variables that come into play here. So I can't really say what an ideal length is, but I can tell you a couple of things to consider. How much time will it take for you to accomplish the goal? How many times a week can you reasonably meet with the teachers in different capacities? How many times are you able to plan with them? How many times are you able to be in their classroom? So it really comes down to time and resources, and you always need to allow for flexibility. There could be a fire drill or an assembly out of nowhere. The teacher is absent. So we want to make sure that we're allowing for those when we're thinking about the timeline as well. And when we outline the timeline, then we can start planning into those time slots, goal setting, co-planning, demo lessons. We want to follow the demo lessons up with more planning together. And I like to follow a sort of gradual release model here once we get into this cycle piece of I do, we do, you do. So I love to jump off with a demo lesson and from the teacher watching with the lens of what can they take away and not so much the lens of I'm the coach and I'm the expert and I'm going to show you what you should do, but more of the lens of here are some ideas of how this might look in your classroom. And then jumping into that co-teaching piece, it's really a nice bridge to you observing them. It gives you that opportunity to observe what their teaching looks like while you're teaching alongside of them. And then more planning together. And when you co-plan their observation together, that also takes off that pressure. So now you're going to go in and watch them teach, and it's a cycle. So you can rinse and repeat that as much as needed. So it's just like with our students, that I do, we do, you do has such a high impact. I recently did a coaching cycle with a second grade team that was working on enhancing their small group instruction. So in the beginning, I met with their PLC. That's where we had the time to develop their goal. And our goal was teacher focused in that they wanted to learn and implement impactful formats for small group instruction for writing. They didn't know what that really could look like in their classrooms. So during this meeting, we took a quick look at some student writing to be able to discuss, what are some of the types of instruction they had already been implementing and where they felt the students were lacking. And then we followed that gradual release model. This is something that I will say it's much harder to accomplish in my current role because it dials back to that time and resources. So for you, figuring out what that cycle looks like is dependent on those variables.
That is so helpful. And I'm reminded of a recent coaching cycle that we had a couple of years ago. Me and my fellow coaches, we designed a new lesson plan format for small group. So as teachers were shifting from balanced literacy to structured literacy and guided reading to something else, we designed something, we called it guided phonics. And it basically was a lesson plan structure for a small group and using systematic phonics and decodables. And we demoed the lessons for our teachers. We then co-taught lessons with our teachers. We watched our teachers implement these lessons themselves. And some teachers felt really comfortable and hit the ground running, whereas other teachers did need that rinse and repeat. And so your coaching cycles might look different teacher to teacher, and that's okay too, because we're being responsive to our teachers just like we're responsive to our students.
Yes, absolutely. And that's the beauty in all of coaching is that there's not one prescribed way to do it.
Yeah. So if your schedule is packed or if you have a unique coaching role like you're in yourself, how do you prioritize who gets a cycle? Individuals or grade levels?
I'm sure people are going to expect a different answer to this question than I'm going to give. But my advice to instructional coaches and administrators alike is to prioritize the people who actually want to be coached. That is where I put most of my energy. And again, that goes back to that relationship piece. The more teachers that you have that positive relationship with, the more people that will open their eyes to the positive impact that you can have in their room, and the more people that will be open to coaching. So if you start with that relationship piece, you will have more people opened. But it's really those teachers who are begging, please come help me, please come into my room. Those are the places that you are going to have the most impact. And so if I have to prioritize, I prioritize the people who are asking for help and support. School administration might want coaches to prioritize the teachers who didn't get a great observation or the teachers that have historically lower test scores. But to me, that's not always the best bang for your buck.
Yeah. And I always looked for that one teacher on every grade level who could be my way in, my BFF, and, coach that one teacher who's so gung ho. And then they share back in their PLCs and their grade level meetings like, oh my gosh, I just had the coach in and we did this, and that, and it was amazing. And it's like this trickle down effect.
Yeah, it's like in any business you're running, word of mouth is the best kind of referral you can get, and it works the same way.
Yeah, totally. So, how would you handle a situation where a teacher perhaps didn't want to be coached or didn't want to participate in a cycle?
So, I'm not going to lie, this can be hard. And my first piece of advice for coaches is don't take it personally. It happens. And there may have been something that happened in someone's career before you even knew them that made them feel like they are closed off to coaching. But my best tip for you is to start off with student-centered coaching. That way, the focus isn't really on them and the focus isn't really on fixing them. The focus is on supporting the students. And I learned this question from one of the coaches that I currently work with at the Rutgers Center for Literacy Development. And I saw her approach some of the toughest teachers I've ever seen be coached with this question of, what would you like to see your students get better at? That is how she opened up the coaching conversation. It wasn't about them and it wasn't about their teaching. And what teacher out there doesn't have something that they would like to have their students get better at? We all have probably a laundry list of things that we want our students to do better with, the places that we want to up the expectations. And when you start from that space, then you can have a really productive conversation with those people because it's not about them and it's not about their teaching. It's about their students. And then if they're still really, closed off to you coming into their classroom, you can offer to come in and support the students who are neediest with that particular skill or that particular piece of content. And when you come in, it might not look like traditional coaching in the beginning because sometimes to get our foot in the door, we simply offer to pull a small group side by side while they're pulling a small group. But I always leave them some notes. I always have a little debrief and I always leave them with next steps. So that's where I slide my coaching in. And then little by little, sometimes I'll even invite them over and say, hey, I really want you to come visit this group because I have a question about so-and-so and the work they've been doing with me. And I kind of want you to see what they're doing. That's my way of now they're observing me teach. So it's kind of just a backwards way of developing these further relationships, getting your foot in the door in a strategic way, getting your foot in the door in a way that they feel comfortable with having you come in. And then these relationships really just kind of start to flourish the more that you work together and the more they realize how nice it is actually to have that other person in the classroom with them.
That is so powerful. And I want to write that one on a Post-it. What do you want to see your students get better at? But yeah, it's kind of like you have to roll up your sleeves with the teachers for them to have that buy-in. That is such a helpful trick. And I think it's such a great way to get your foot in the door when they see that all hands are on deck and you're not there to fix them or to be judgmental, but truly, truly to help. Thank you for that. All right. So any final encouragement or advice for our coaches on coaching cycles or coaches that are just getting started?
Well, it kind of goes right along with what you just said of rolling up your sleeves. The advice when I really sat down and thought about it that I have for coaches is to stay in the trenches with the teachers. Don't ever let yourself forget the grind that it is to be a classroom teacher. I often bring myself back to the memories of arriving at school and the scramble that it was until the last minute my kids were walking in the door, of lining up homework and read alouds and small group instruction and math and social studies and the science experiment we're supposed to do that day. There's so many moving pieces. And in today's world, there's even more with the things that our students are coming into class bringing in with their own struggles that they're facing. So always stay side by side with the teachers. You're not in a position above them. You're not in a position better than them. You're always with them and in their classes, and always be willing to do any of the tasks that they also do. They will see that and they will recognize that and they will respect that forever.
Oh my gosh. I literally got the chills. I got goosebumps when you said that. That was really powerful. That's a great message to carry with you at all times. And that's a good message for teachers to hear too, to know the role of a coach too.
Yeah, of course.
All right. So the last question is just for fun, but what are your top 3 must-have tools that every literacy coach should have in their coaching toolkit?
This is such a fun question, and I can't wait to hear what other people are going to say. But the first one is really so on brand for you. So I'm really glad that this is one thing that I love to bring along with me is bright colored paper or bright colored Post-its. And I know that's so your vibe. And the reason why
My number one.
the reason why I love to put any of my resources on bright colored paper, I always would add to my order the Astro Brights stack of paper that can go through the copier machine, because then they see it and they remember it stands out on their desk and they remember it's from me. They remember to use it, and I am in sight, in mind, right? So they want me to come back. Same with just bright Post-its are more fun, in my opinion. They're more fun for me and the teacher and even the kids than just like the blah yellow Post-its. So it's a twofold thing, but that's one thing I like to bring is colored paper and Post-its that stand out from the rest.
I love that. And it's not just about being cutesy and demure, right? It's intentional. I know teachers are always like, that's so pretty. I get to keep
Yes,
it.
I know. The next thing that I wanted to share was great mentor texts. I think that teachers can spend so much time hemming and hawing over the right book or the right story. And anytime that I'm in a classroom and I see a great book or a great story, I either take a copy or write down the title or whatever, what have you, because it's always really time consuming to try to find really rich, wonderful texts. So as the coach, build yourself a little toolkit of great mentor text. Your teachers will really appreciate that. And the last thing that you should have in your toolkit is a network of other coaches to rely on. So if you don't have other coaches in your district, some way, somehow, you can even ask your administration if they can reach out to other districts and see if they can connect you with their instructional coaches. But, you know, even you, Michelle, I reach out to you. I just reached out to you to help me with my presentation for Rutgers, asked if I could borrow a resource from you. That is the best thing, to have other people in your corner that are are willing to help you out.
Yeah. And, you think about teachers rely on those PLCs, and coaches need that too. There's so few resources out there for coaches. So when you find something great, you have to go all in, whether it's meeting up or book club or just having a friend in the same avenue as you. So I know you're doing some great coaching consortium kind of things for Rutgers. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So on that note, like I said in the beginning, when I first became a literacy coach, I had never had one before. I didn't know what one was supposed to do. And the leaders in my district, thankfully, just trusted me to run with the role. But my counterpart and I, we did a lot of PD, and it was so helpful and excellent. So we are looking to offer PD through the Rutgers Center for Literacy Development. We're going to have 6 webinars to teach about coaching and what some of the best practices are in literacy. And then there's also going to be time set aside during that time for you to network with other coaches that are enrolled in the cohort. So that's really exciting. That's where you can build those relationships and get those other people to rely on. I know I always loved just venting to other coaches, hearing what they're doing that's going well, and just even talking about simple things like curriculum that they're using, especially in this day and age where we're seeing a lot of shifts and a lot of questions arise about who we should trust and what we should use. So I'm really excited for that. And I'm excited to learn from the people that we have attending as well. It's turning out to be a great group. So that's through the Rutgers Center for Literacy Development.
Amazing. We can link that in the show notes too.
Awesome.
So this has been jam-packed full of information. I'm sure my listeners would love to connect with you further. So where can they find you?
So I work with my counterpart, Alicia. We run at Literacy Tipsters on Instagram is our brand new page that we just started. So we'd love to see your support and hear what kind of content would be helpful for you over there. So come give us a follow and message us to say hi.
Oh, definitely. And I am so excited that you started that page because you always have such great content and ideas. So I'm excited to see your page evolve into something incredible.
Thank you.
So thank you so much, Erin, for sharing all about coaching cycles and a little bit about your experiences. This has been so valuable, and I'll have to have you back again on something else because I already know it's going to be wonderful.
All right. Thank you so much, Michelle. This was really incredible. I can't wait to listen to all of your episodes, binge listen, re-listen, all of the things, and share them with the teachers I work with.
Thank you. Thank you so much for tuning into Literacy in Color. I hope today's episode left you feeling both inspired and equipped with something new to add to your teaching toolkit. If you're enjoying this podcast, it would truly mean so much to me if you'd leave a 5-star review. It helps other educators find the show and join our colorful community. And don't forget to hit the follow or subscribe button so you never miss an episode. For more tips, tools, and resources, be sure to check out the links in the show notes at michelleandthecolorfulclassroom.com. Thanks again for listening, and I'll catch you next week. Until then, be colorful and teach colorfully.